Welcome back. Today we're diving into something sacred, sensitive, and deeply human: religious guilt. And before we begin, I want to say this loud and clear. This episode is not about shaming any religion or belief system. It's about making space for those who have been hurt, silenced, or shamed in the name of something that was supposed to offer love and belonging. Let me ask you something. Have you ever felt like no matter how hard you try, you're just never good enough for your faith? Maybe you were told that questioning your beliefs meant you were lost. Maybe you were raised to believe that there is only one right way to live, and somehow you just don't fit that mold. Maybe you're divorced. Maybe you're spiritual, but not really religious, or just exhausted from trying to follow the rules that no longer feel true to your soul. That guilt that you're feeling is real. Those whispers that you hear that say you're bad, you've strayed, you've disappointed whatever higher spiritual being, whatever family member, whatever friend, whatever community. That's what we're talking about. And if you've ever felt it, you're not alone. I think we need to start separating belief from fear. Because love, true, deep spiritual love, is not supposed to come with conditions. If your faith teaches compassion, but you're drowning in shame, or if your religion says you are loved, but you wake up feeling every day that you failed, it might be time to ask, who is this guilt really serving? Next, you're going to hear from a very strong woman who dealt with religious guilt most of her life. And I hope that you really take the time to listen to her story. And if something resonates with you, please don't hesitate to reach out to her. I'm Allie, and thank you for being on today. So I'm really excited about that. So today we're just going to talk about the religious guilt that you were feeling, maybe still feel, and that's totally all right. I think everybody goes through that at some point in their life in some sort of way. So if you don't mind, could you tell us a little bit about your religious upbringing?
I grew up in a Black church, surrounded by strong women of faith, and what I saw was women that never showed their emotions, but that was also due to the community. In the Black community, what goes on in the house stays in the house. Things were swept under the rug, so I didn't see emotions expressed, and that's why I did the same thing. And even to this day, it's very hard for me to show my emotions. So because of the background, the background as far as community and church, it was pretty much just serving God and not surrendering to Him. Okay.
Yeah, I can see how that would definitely carry on in any part of your life, even to today, especially if you were surrounded by that. Was there a certain point of time where you started to feel that guilt sort of creeping in because maybe you were thinking or feeling differently than what you were actually seeing?
As far as I can remember, guilt was always a part of my life. I carried guilt simply from just existing in pain. Like some of my struggles made me feel less like I was faithful. But as I got older, the guilt deepened to the point where feeling anxiety or depression. So yeah, guilt goes back even to a little child, because then I grew up where children were seen and not heard. So I grew up feeling unloved, unwanted, and unheard.
Right. So then you're going to church and hoping to have that community to maybe hear you or feel you or see you, and you're also not getting that there. So obviously you probably did not feel supported at all. And I can't even imagine how that would feel as a child. So did your relationship with yourself change during that time either whether when you were a child or as you were growing up and you still felt that way?
My relationship, the only thing I knew was pain. I just knew that a child should stay in their place. So it didn't change, it just remained. Even though, when you're a child, you don't even know how to describe what you're going through. You can't even really comprehend it. So all I knew was child trauma and a lot of grief. But again, that carry over into the adult life.
Right, right. Okay. So you mentioned a couple of feelings, being quiet, having that grief, that guilt. Were you ever angry or I can imagine being angry at everyone if I felt that way all the time. I don't know if that's just me or...
Yes, anger was a big part of it. There was anger at people in general, specifically my family. There was anger for me, myself. There was anger towards God, because I kept going to church and hearing about this big God. And it's like, why don't you keep me from some of the pain that I was enduring? I experienced quite a number of SA acts. And so I was angry at family because they didn't protect me. So anger, fear, shame, those were the biggest parts of my emotions.
Just kind of going off of what you just said, were you able to speak to anybody about those things that were happening to you? Or did you try, even though you knew maybe it was the way of just being quiet and doing what you're supposed to?
I didn't, because again, that was the norm. That was my community. And when you see other children try to express their emotions, you saw what they got, and it's like you didn't want any of it.
So now that you're an adult and you've grown, has any of that changed for you? Has your view on your community or your relationship with God or even maybe your relationship with yourself or your family, has it gotten better? Has it gotten worse? Where have you kind of gone for yourself to make yourself who you are today as an adult, where you don't have to worry about other people taking care of you because now you can do it for yourself?
Oh, yeah. Things have totally changed. I learned about mental health and its resources. I first came in contact with it during my freshman year of college. Not that I just took it and ran with it, but as time passed, I began to deepen my relationship with the Lord. Again, instead of serving Him, I learned to now surrender, because I realized it's a deep relationship. So I started my spiritual relationship, or deepening my spiritual relationship with Him, as well as the journey of recovery. And because of those things, I've made peace with my past. And when it comes to my community, that's what we know as far as resilience, bouncing back. And so because of that, that's why I'm now a mental health and emotional health advocate. I am a Christian life coach. I am an author, and I make it a point to tell my story, to let other women know that they do not have to remain in the shame and the fear and the guilt or the shadows of it. That your pain, there is purpose. We're all born with a purpose. And that's another part of my discovery, that I was born with a purpose. And so the things that I've endured, God can use those things. And that's exactly what I'm doing now.
That's awesome. That's really wonderful. And honestly, congratulations to you. That's a huge thing, A lot of people can just really be overwhelmed and overcome with those emotions, especially if that's all you knew. It's very easy to just continue to follow that path. So good on you for, reaching out. And I'm sure, you've done a lot of great things, it sounds like. So I think that, this is a conversation that needs to be had, because there are a lot of people, for instance, I'm Catholic. I was brought up Catholic. But I'm Catholic because that's what I was brought up as, right? I know what the Bible says. I know what I'm supposed to do. I know it's bad. I know it's wrong. And it's kind of just like one of those things, people just do it because that's what they know. And it kind of sounds like that's unfortunate for you. And that's kind of what happened. Are you still in contact with that religious community, or have you branched away from them?
Well, I'm originally from Helena, Arkansas. So my mom moved me up to Memphis when I was like 12 or 13 years old. But nevertheless, the Black church is the Black church. And so I endeavor to help change the mind of the Black church. I let women know, specifically the Black women in the church, that your silence, regardless of what's going on in your life, it comes at a cost. It comes at a cost of your health in general, because what's going on in your emotional state, your mental state, it comes out of your physical. And so the good thing is now that it's more accepting, the mental health space and its resources, but there's still, people out there that think you can pray things away. And that's just not it. Faith without works is dead. And so I know that we need to be the example that we want to see in the world. And so that's why when the Lord blessed me to start on my recovery healing journey, I got to a point where he's like, okay, it's time to tell your story. And so if I can just get one woman to realize that she does not have to remain in that state, to be brave enough to start the process, that there is life on the other side of trauma.
Yeah, that's a really great thing to take away from. I know that a lot of people who go through trauma, especially women, they're afraid of who they might upset, who they might lose. So can you explain a little bit about that? When you finally took that step, were you scared to lose your family, maybe friends, that community that even though maybe wasn't quite right, it still is a community and it is still what you know? How were you feeling when you were like, I'm going to do this and I'm probably going to make some people mad?
Well, I remember when the Holy Spirit told me to go into therapy consistently, because prior to me, I was just inconsistent. I didn't know that becoming an author of a book was part of my journey, but the Holy Ghost reminded me that that's what he told me when in my early 20s. And I was like, oh my goodness, you forget those things, because I was a single mother. And when you are a single mother, you just live to get through the day. You're not caring about the future. So once I was obedient with going through the journey of my recovery, I was also on the same journey as far as my spirituality. I was deepening my relationship with the Lord, and that was learning to say yes. And that's where my signature talk came out of. I broke up with fear. And it's really the spirit of fear. And so not only is that a declaration, but it's a daily thing that you have to do. You have to literally break up with fear. So another thing I say is faith over fear. You have to choose your faith over fear every day. And so once I did the 1 year of consistent therapy, then I met a lady that was a publisher, and I didn't know she was a publisher. So once I told her the things that the Lord had brought me through, the things that the Lord blessed me to accomplish, she was like, oh my God, where is your book? And I'm like, I'll get to that in about 5 years. And she just laughed like you did. She was like, no, ma'am, you're going to write this book now. And I'm like, no, ma'am, we're not going to do that. And she was like, why not? And so, of course, when you don't know the process of something, something new, you normally shy away from it. So I was like, I don't know the process. I know it's expensive. I know it's long. So she began to tell me that if I can make the process easy for you, would you do it? So I did. So the thing was, 3 times I drew back. The first time I drew back, the Lord said, you have a story that must be told. The second time I drew back, he was like, if you don't tell it, nobody would know it. The third time I drew back, my baby sister said that, she said, are you trying to hurt anybody with your story? And she just asked me these questions. I was like, no. She's like, well, you earned the right to tell your story. And so a few weeks after that, the book was on Amazon, and the name of the book is called God, Why Did You Save Me?
Wow. That is a question.
That's a deep, yes. And I had a number of people to ask me, why did I name the book that? And I just was obedient. The Lord is the one that gave me the title. But so many people asked me that question to the point I had to go back to the Lord. It's like, why did you? And it turns out that was the question that an 8-year-old, from a little soul of an 8-year-old, that persistently asked God, why did he save me out of the house fire that 2 of my siblings perished in? Because prior to me being 8, my nightly prayer was, Lord, let's let me die in my sleep. So so when you are a child and you're experiencing trauma, you don't know how to verbalize it. You don't even know how to, to comprehend it. You just know that you just want an escape.
Right. And I think that is a very powerful book title. I mean, personally, I had 3 people very close to me pass away. It was 2-week increments. And I remember saying, like, what did I do to deserve this? What did I do to you to deserve this? And in those moments, you just don't, it's just, and I was an adult. I mean, it was just very humbling to me once I realized, like, actually, like, he was not punishing me. I didn't do anything to deserve that. But when you're in that moment, those are the questions we ask. Mm-hmm. So I think that is a great title, and I'm definitely going to read that. So you wrote a book, you went to therapy, which good on you too, because that is a huge barrier also. Personally, myself, I always say finding the right therapist is like dating, because for a while I was going to therapy because I knew that I needed it, but I was like, maybe I just am not made for therapy. Like, maybe this is not for me. And it turns out I just wasn't speaking to the right person. Now that I have gone somewhat consistent, I need to be more like you. It's really amazing how different it is, and how I thought that I didn't have any feelings. I thought that I knew, how to handle what I was feeling, and I didn't want to talk about anything because I got it. And now I'm like, hey, you want to hear what happened? And I'm like, I was never like that. So I think even just realizing that going to therapy consistently can be an not easy, but first step, that all of us can at least get to. We don't have to write a book to be healed. We don't have to do anything. It's just simply talking to people. So you wrote a book, you're going to therapy, you're speaking to the community, hopefully changing people's minds, because it sounds like that's something that definitely needs to change. And what else are you doing?
Well, besides that, I am consistently being a guest on podcasts, because I'm still breaking up with fear in my life. Like, for instance, when you experience trauma, especially as a child, you're used to hiding. So I learned to wear a mask, perfect wearing a mask. I turn inward. So it's easy for me to talk to other people, like ask them how are they doing or how they feeling. But then if you ask me how am I feeling, I may have one word with you, I'm good. So right now I'm learning, even now, to learn to verbalize my emotions effectively. Um, and so uh, I just started back therapy because when you on your recovery and spiritual journey, that doesn't stop. It's a journey. And so having a therapist um, is not just for those drastic moments. You may have stressors, triggers. And if you are deemed the strong one in your circle, you may not have anybody that you can talk to. If you can talk to someone or have one or two people in your circle because you're deemed the strong one in your circle, you may not come clean with the people in your life. Unlike your therapist, who is not attached to your life, you can just bear it all and not worry about being judged. So I tell people right now, finding a therapist it can be a long haul, but start now while life is calm. Find the right therapist for you. Still find someone who, um, so someone that is licensed, because a lot of times we don't want to see a therapist, but it's beneficial. And the journey of healing and recovery is not cute. It is not cute. It's a bumpy ride. It's a messy ride. So it's messy, but it's necessary.
I like that. It's messy because it is. Every aspect of life, even if you're having a good life on, people's terms, they're still messy. It doesn't matter. And it's hard. And then I just like to circle back to your book. Would you be okay with maybe telling us a little bit about it?
The book is 7 chapters. The name of the book is called God, Why Did You Save Me? It is on Amazon. And it's a snapshot of my life, of the things that we already talked about. Childhood trauma, experiencing SA between the ages of 4 and 6, later being assaulted again in high school. During that time, I was born to a teenage parents. They were 16. So, teenage parents, they know nothing about parenting. So my grandmother raised me. I grew up literally hating my mom because, when you're a child, you just see things the way you see them. You don't see that your parent is going through. And so I grew up hating my parents. I grew up, I think I was in the 6th grade, and I remember looking out of the window saying, I want to go to college. I want to become an accountant. And I wanted to learn to speak well and write well. Those are the things that in my little mind, I say it. And I equated, later on, I realized that I equated becoming an accountant with money, because there was so little of it when I was little. So I lived in lack then. And so at the end of the book, with all the turmoil, the grief, the loss that I experienced, I lost 3 siblings. It was 6 of us. I'm the oldest of 6. So when you're the oldest, you have to take care of the siblings. So I had lost 3 siblings. The last 2 perished in the house fire that I mentioned earlier. And later on in my life, early 40s, I remember starting my relationship, truly deepening my relationship with the Lord. And I remember hearing the Holy Spirit tell me, look at your mother. He said, no, look at your mother. And it was like he took the veil off my eyes. I saw her in the spirit. I saw the way that how she was responding to, me and other things. And the Lord allowed me to see me in her actions. And I knew that the way that she responded is how I responded because of the child trauma, because of the essay. And at that point, my heart began to melt because it's like, oh my word, she must have experienced something like what I did in my childhood. And so my heart began to melt. And uh, this, within the last year of her life, our relationship, it broke. The feelings that I had towards her, God just melted my heart. And because of the realness, because of the honesty that I had with the Lord and the honesty that I told her, it mended our relationship. And not too many months after that, she passed. But the Lord showed me that because of my honesty with her and the Lord, it gave her peace where she was ready to go. So I tell people, I tell people now, forgive your parents because they are only, they did what they knew to do back then. And, and forgiveness doesn't mean that you're forgetting, you're excusing what happened to you. Forgiving is releasing you.
Wow. Well, thank you very much for sharing all of that. And that's pretty much what I want, this for. I think, even though my story is different from yours, I could relate to a few things that you did say. And, hopefully when this comes out and everybody can hear it, I'm sure you will reach plenty of people. And I hope that just at least one of them says, you know what, she's right. Or, you know what, I'm glad that I'm not the only one feeling that way or who went through that. Because I think that's a big thing. We hide because I don't want you to know. When you said, I'm also the oldest child. So you have to take care of your siblings, and you, just like being a parent, you don't want them to know how you're feeling. I am the strong friend. That's just how it is. And you're right. Sometimes they forget about the strong ones because we are the strong ones. And we don't let that show because that's just how we are, right? So I guess another takeaway is check on your strong people because they might need you.
That's it. And that's why I created the listening sessions. And the listening sessions were born out of what I wished I had. Just someone to listen to you. There's a difference between listening and hearing. When you are hearing, you can be multitasking. You hear a person just enough to respond. Compared to listening, you're in the moment with that person. You're validating who they are. You're validating their emotions. And when you're listening, a true listener, and I call it my superpower, a true listener will not interrupt you, will not judge you, will not try to fix you, will not just throw a Bible verse on it. And so that's why I'm known as the professional listener also. And so the listening session is specifically for those who are deemed the strong one in their circle. And it's also created for those people who want to start the healing journey, recovery journey, but they still have such a negative thought towards therapy. And so to me, that's like an entry point to start your recovery. Just finding someone who will listen to you is a big help. So I offer the listening sessions as a starting point, and I purposely and intentionally connect to therapists. So one thing that I've learned that you are the expert of you. And so if you get to the point where you're talking things out and you realize, well, maybe I do need to see a therapist. At that point, it's like, here, I give you a resource when you're ready. Because what I want to do is put the ball in your court so that you can no longer keep saying, because of someone else, I wasn't able to do it.
And how can people reach out to you if they would like to speak with you or talk to you or anything?
Social media, Carolyn J. Murphy, Facebook, LinkedIn. The name of my business is called Firm Foundations Community Outreach LLC, or Firm Foundations, capital C, capital O. So I have an Instagram and TikTok page with the business name, and then Facebook and LinkedIn. It's Carolyn Murphy or Carolyn J. Murphy.
Again, thank you so much. You opened my eyes. I feel like we connected on certain things. And again, it's just nice to know that some of the things that I was feeling, I'm not the only one.
Yes.
And it's just nice. It's a good feeling. So, is there anything else you want to say, you want to add, or you want to ask?
Well, first of all, I want to thank you for accepting me to be a guest on your podcast. I truly appreciate the opportunity to be in front of your audience. I want us to know and remember, and we probably hear it and it goes in one ear and come out the other, that you truly do matter. If you are of the household of faith, God really do cares about you. Despite how you feel and what's going on in your life, he really cares about us, because that's one of the scriptures. He said, bring our cares to him. And prayer is not a hard thing. The way that we're talking, this is how I talk to the Lord. It's like, Lord, I'm mad today. You need to get this. I mean, it could be just that simple. Or, Lord, just help me. So, but to know that you matter, your emotions matter, your story matters, your healing matters, you have to make a decision to start those journeys. And again, your purpose is greater than the pain that you're enduring or that you had to endure.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for that. That is religious guilt in its rawest form. And here's the wild part. Sometimes that guilt doesn't even come from God. And as we heard from her story, it comes from people. Whether that's from the fear of disappointing a parent, a pastor, a community you once belonged to, it can even come from the silence that happens when you start living differently. And even though no one's saying it, you feel the judgment. We heard a few ways to help get through religious guilt, and I think those suggestions are great places to start. You're allowed to create your own relationship with the divine, one that feels honest, safe, and yours. It's not forced, it's not handed down, it's not something that you're doing just because you've always done it. It is yours and your story alone. And honestly, if you choose to walk away from the religion altogether, that's okay too. You're still worthy. If religious guilt has followed you like a shadow, please hear me out. You don't have to carry it forever. You don't need to earn your worth. You are not too far gone. You are not bad. You are not broken. What you are is human. And humans feel so deeply. And that's what we do here on Unfiltered Feels. We hold space for the messy, the honest, and the unspoken. All right, that's it for today. Next week, we're exploring a different kind of guilt, the guilt that comes with privilege. Thank you for being here, for being human, and for letting yourself feel. Just a reminder, this podcast is all heart, not healthcare. Please talk to a professional for medical advice. Follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Unfiltered Feels Podcast. Share this with someone who needs it, or leave a review. And don't forget, the things you're feeling, you're not alone. I'll see you next time.